Okay, so now bishop to c4 by Fischer. He finally activates his light square bishop to the more active diagonal. And guys, basically this is the part of accelerated dragon variation, which is basically called modern bishop to c4 variation. And after that, here Samuel decides to castle, bishop to b3. And guys, now in this position, black can push d6 with the idea of taking the center with e5, but instead he decides to play knight to a5, which attacks the bishop. But the problem is, since now black moves his knight from this square which was previously guarding the e5, but so that's why Fischer just advances his e-pawn, and now he is attacking the bishop. And let's suppose if black decides to capture this bishop with let's say knight takes b3, which also targets the rook. But in this position, instead of defending the rook, here white can consider this amazing move, e takes f6, completely giving up the rook. And the idea is, let's say if knight takes a1, then f takes g7, attacking the rook. And after king takes g7, and now instead of recapturing, here white can first of all castle, because obviously this knight is trapped, so that's why it's not going anywhere. And if knight takes c2, then queen takes c2. And now just take a look at this position carefully. I mean, white pieces are much more active, as you can see, the both knights and the bishop. And in the next move, this rook is also going to join the party. But whereas, just take a look at the black pieces, I mean, which are still in their original place. And let's say if black tries to activate all of his pieces, and let's say if he starts with e5 so that he can attack this active knight. But in this position, you know what white can play? Here white can sacrifice his knight and play knight to d5. And the idea is, if e takes d4, then bishop takes d4 check. So that's why f6, but then rook to e1. And now you can see white is threatening rook to e7 check. So to stop this, let's say if this rook comes to f7, but then queen to c3. And now just take a look at this pawn, that how much pressure white was exerting on that, which obviously cannot be defended, which clearly makes this position winning for white. Okay, so in the game, after the move e5, yeah, let me go back. So here Samuel decides to play knight to e8. I mean, he just undevelops his knight so that maybe he wants to attack this pawn. But the problem with that move is, now in this position, Bobby Fischer sacrifices his bishop with bishop takes f7 check. And here the best move for black is to recapture with the rook, but instead he decides to recapture with the pawn. And now comes this another beautiful move, and guys, now take it as a challenge and find the best move for white. And guys, if you find the move knight to e6, then congrats, you are a genius. Because clearly you can see now this queen is trapped, because this b6 and c7 square is already covered by the knight and the bishop. So that's why finally Samuel decides to to grab this knight. Okay guys, so now the thing is, how can white proceed from this position? And guys, here computer is suggesting the move knight to b5. And basically the idea is, let's say if black decides to push a6 so that he can attack this knight, but then knight to d4, attacking the e6 pawn. And if let's say knight takes d4, then queen takes d4 check. So to defend this, if e5, but then queen to b4. And you can see how white is slowly creating weaknesses in the black's position. Okay, so since this pawn is attacked, so let's say to defend this, if black brings his rook to f7, but then rook at a goes to d1. And here basically idea is to bring this rook to d8 with the idea of rook to e8 so that he can put some pressure over the e7 pawn. But let's say if bishop to b5, but in this position now comes queen takes b7, attacking the rook, as well as just look at these amazing pawns on the queen side. No need to tell that who is winning here. Okay, so in the game after king to g7, here Fischer goes for knight to e4, and basically he just wants to bring this knight to c5 with the same idea of attacking the e6 pawn. And guys, now I just want you all to pause the video and just try to think what Fischer played in this position. And guys, in this position, he sacrificed his rook with rook takes c6. Because after b takes c6, which actually played by Samuel, now Fischer passed his b pawn and now he is attacking the rook. And after rook at a goes to b8, finally queen takes a6. And you can see now no one can stop these pawns. I mean, even if he tries to attack the knight with knight to d8, but then rook to b1, Fischer just, defends it. Rook to f7, but then h3. Rook takes b7, rook takes b7 check, rook takes b7, and in this position, the final move by Fischer is queen to a8, and in this position, Samuel resigned. This is because, as you can see now, Fischer is attacking the knight. So let's say if black decides to defend with rook to d7, but now comes a4. Fischer can just advance his queenside pawns. And if check, then king to h2. And if knight to f7, let's say if he defends the knight, then a5. Rook to c1, but finally queen takes c6. And you can see now no one can stop this pawn from promotion. What a masterpiece by Bobby Fischer. That brilliant bishop sacrifice followed by the unbelievable tactical sequence was just simply incredible. Games like these remind us why Fischer was one of the greatest players to ever touch a chessboard. Like this video and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.